Okay, be brave. Welcome back to the RF Fitness Podcast brought to you by rffitness.net, your source for online coaching built for and by busy grown-ups just like you who are on the quest for health and strength in everyday life. I am your host, Rob Finlayson, certified personal trainer, elder brother, impossible glutton, and tonight I am not here with my co-host. Rachel isn't feeling very well, so she's taking the night off. It's Wednesday. We normally record on a Tuesday night. She felt bad, said we push it to Wednesday. Still doesn't feel up to it. That's fine. So tonight I'll be hosting you solo for a Q&A special edition episode of the podcast. But before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. Week 1 of the October challenge, the Halloween, has come to a close. We have our first Halloween winner in Beth. Hooray! Congratulations, Beth. She came out ahead by exactly 1 point in the final week score taking. So good job with that. Your prize money is in the mail. If you are listening to this and you are participating in Halloween and you want to earn a bonus point, here's your chance. DM me and give me some recommendations for Halloween or spooky type movies that I haven't seen yet. I've watched several so far this month that I have never seen, and I can see why I've never heard of them before. I've suffered through some real stinkers, you guys, and I am ready for some good ones. I'd say probably the biggest winning film I've watched so far this month has been Sleepy Hollow, which I watch every year for good reason. It's just so goddamn silly and spooky. I love it so much. Before we jump into the questions, speaking of Beth, she sent me a hilarious joke from last week. When does a joke become a dad joke? When the punchline becomes apparent. And when does the punchline become apparent? After delivery. Haha. Thank you, Beth. You can see why she won Halloween. I also got this wonderful joke from my friend Isaac. How are men like linoleum floors? If you lay one right the first time, you can walk all over it for the rest of your adult life. How ribald. Let's jump into some actual questions here, guys. Let's go to the podcast here on the Discord. Last week I didn't get to all the questions. Rachel was so nervous we are going to over-answer our questions, and I knew you guys would have too many. So here's the first one from last week from Amanda. Question for the podcast. My husband and I disagree on the best way to manage nutrition when trying to lose weight. So I'd love the court of opinions to weigh in. One of us believes that it doesn't matter as much what you eat, so long as you are in a calorie deficit. And if you stay in a deficit over time, you will lose weight. The other person believes that, quote, sometimes math just won't math, end quote. And you need to take into account your macros and the types of food you eat, as well as being in overall deficit to lose weight. Okay, so the short answer of this is it doesn't matter what you eat. All that matters is CICO, C-I-C-O, calories in, calories out. That's a very short answer. The long, more nuanced, closer to actually capital T true answer is that it depends. There's obviously going to be some mitigating factors for a lot of people who are in different phases of their life. I'm talking about like hormonal balances or certain, conditions or something like that make it so your body holds on to weight or holds on to water, or holds on to fat in certain ways that a quote unquote normal physiology would be burning through it. But let's put that to the side as an extreme example. I want to explain why calories in, calories out is all that matters. It comes down to thermodynamics, to physics, which is basically what fitness is. It's just applied physics applied to your body. So yeah, it doesn't matter what you eat. You could lose weight eating only Twinkies, ice cream, Oreos. In fact, someone did do that in, I want to say, the late 90s or maybe the 2000s. A professor tracked himself very neatly on a calorie deficit, eating specifically those junk foods like Doritos and Oreos and stuff like that. He did subsidize his diet with supplements and vitamins so that he wouldn't just have liver failure or something like that. But he did lose weight. He lost something like, I want to say 20, 40 pounds, something like that over the course of his experiment. So yes, that's literally all that matters. If you eat nothing, if your RMR, your resting metabolic rate is 2,000 calories, and every day you only eat 1,500 calories of raw acorns, you will lose weight. If you eat only 1,500 calories of shoe leather, you will lose weight. Don't do that. If you only eat 1,500 calories a day of cookies and cream ice cream, you will lose weight if your RMR is 2,000 is above that. So yeah, short answer and long answer, that's what matters. So Amanda, I hope you were the one who was right, and I hope I get to tell you you're right, because that's the fun part. Next question, Garrett asks, what are your thoughts on working out in shoes versus barefoot? And I think this is a fun one from Garrett specifically because we've worked out together at the YMCA in the good old days, so he knows how much I love training barefoot and in socks. I think shoes are a foot prison, and I try to not wear mine as often as possible. Unfortunately, because we live in a society, I have to wear shoes most of the time when I'm outside the house. Obviously, if you've seen my Instagram, I work out in the quote unquote brojo all the time, my basement gym. So I'm in bare feet here all the time. I never wear shoes when I'm working out at home. That would be just absolute silliness. Why? I like the rooting effect of having bare feet into the ground. The soles of your feet are actually covered in nerve receptors. So you get a lot of sensory information out of the bottoms of your feet if you're not wearing shoes. There's so many teeny tiny little muscles and a whole suite of itty bitty little bones that go into your feet, and they're made to like compress and spread and absorb and accelerate and decelerate your body. We are human beings, are wild animals who learned how to make each other pay taxes and build the internet. So we are designed to be outside, not with shoes. No one's born wearing shoes. So your feet are designed to deal with walking on like sand and dirt and forest floor and stuff like that. It sounds incredibly painful to us now because obviously our feet are conditioned to living inside of shoes, to these foot prisons. But I think shoes have their place definitely if you are training, let's say, a lot of plyometrics or running or something like that. Again, because we have to do those on surfaces that are very hard and unforgiving. Some would say, quote unquote, unnatural, but I don't want to be like that corner of the fitness internet for it. But barefoot, barefoot for my money, for most of the time, is what I personally prefer. If you wonder if you should be working out barefoot or in shoes or socks, like DM me and let me know because it's very much a case by case basis, I think. Our friend of the show, M, asks, if I'm working out 3 to 4 times a week, I love this question. If I'm working out 3 to 4 times a week and eating healthy, but staying at a consistent weight on the scale, is it because I'm gaining muscle or losing fat? Or could I be doing something wrong? And I love this question because I hear it an awful lot. So chances are, if you're listening to this podcast and you have been on any kind of fitness journey in the past, you have wondered the same thing at some point. I feel like I'm working out so much. I feel like I'm watching my food. Nothing's happening on the scale. Well, am I stupid? Like, what's happening here? So I want to break this question down into a couple of different smaller parts, because there's a lot of questions that come out of this question. Like any nerd, I want to really break it down and get granular with this. So let's start with the first bit. If I'm working out 3 to 4 times a week, pause. Let's talk about what that means. What is 3 to 4 workouts? Is it 3 workouts or is it 4 workouts? What type of workout are you doing? How long are they? What's your exercise selection? What is the intensity? What is the movement density that's happening? There's certainly a sliding scale, a spectrum here of, again, I'm going to use the word intensity. How difficult, how challenging are these workouts, these training sessions, I would like to call them, per week? Are they enough to make a difference? Are you coming in and are you following a progressive weight training program? Are you getting more reps, more weight, deeper ranges of motion, more neurologically diverse forms of movement? Is it a brisk walk around the street with your dogs, which can be good exercise, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a training session. I've talked about the difference between working out and training before. So the first part of this question that I would want to unpack is, what do you mean by working out? Let's look at that for a second. Working out 3 to 4 times a week, eating healthy. Pause. Again, what does that mean? We can unpack that. Eating healthy is something I feel like a lot of people, quote unquote, know how to do. But I think if you were to ask someone like myself, like, what does eating healthy really mean? What does it look like? It's hard to put like a very um, distinct definition on it. Like, I'm not gonna like look it up on Wikipedia and see exactly what it means because it's gonna be a little bit different for everyone. Like again, like your calorie range is gonna be different. You might have pre-existing conditions that preclude you from eating gluten or chicken or certain kinds of fats, vegetables. You're allergic to peanuts, whatever. Um, but I think what we're talking about here is calorie balance when we answered that question earlier. But I'm staying at a consistent weight on the scale. Is it because I'm gaining muscle or losing fat? So I will say that gaining muscle is, I have learned, really hard. After my month or so here of being on the hashtag road to 200. It's going well, by the way. Thank you for asking. Am I getting muscle while losing fat? That is something that I feel like gaining muscle while losing fat, I think, is something that's sold to people as they come into fitness as a, God, I don't want to call it a hobby. I feel like it's a really big undersell for how important fitness is. As you come into fitness as like something in your life that you need to be aware of, gaining muscle and losing fat can certainly happen, but not for very long. And it's usually not going to be huge. Like when if you have if you have looked around on the internet for communities who do strength training, chances are you've heard about newbie gains. And this is what happens when someone starts lifting, strength training, doing whatever for the first time, maybe the first time in a very, very long time, and they see just incredible results really quickly. Like they get crazy stronger, like 70% stronger, 50% stronger in like a month. And you do sort of build up a little bit. There's a giant fucking spider on this wall right now. Oh my God. Sorry, listeners, one moment. Oh my God, he's so big. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You have not lived up to your side of the pact. They are allowed to exist in the basement as long as they pay rent and are unseen. But when they crawl down the wall when I'm at work here, guys, they gotta go. Okay, so where was I? Getting muscle while losing fat. Yeah, newbie gains. That was it. Most of what newbie gains comes from when you're doing a strength work is it's actually a neurological adaptation more so than it is a tissue adaptation. Growing muscle, like putting more muscle on your body, is extremely energetically expensive for your body to do. So it tries not to do it very often because it's expensive. It takes a lot of calories. And again, our bodies are evolved to survive in the wilderness where having a bunch of calories isn't a guarantee. In fact, in the wild, you're pretty much guaranteed to go through long periods of time where you don't have enough calories. So that's how your body comports itself. It's only very recently that we just always have too many calories at our fingertips. So I'm losing the sauce here. Am I getting muscle while losing fat? The short answer, is probably not. Could I be doing something wrong? I don't think I would use that language exactly, but I think the thing we need to focus in on is really being accurate and honest about our caloric intake. Let's say we are eating healthy. If I were to define eating healthy, I would say a diet that is fulfilling in multiple ways. It is fulfilling your appetite. You enjoy eating the things that you eat. It is fulfilling you socially. You enjoy sharing a meal around people who you care about. It is fulfilling you, physiologically. You're getting the nutrients that your body needs to operate and to get better at things. And that it is fulfilling in a way that it doesn't like crush you mentally or emotionally or fiscally to eat this way. But that healthy diet would look like most of your protein and your fats, I should say, might come from animal products, meat, essentially. And the majority of your carbohydrates might come from vegetables and fruit, potatoes, fruit, whatever, starches, whatever you want to call them. Again, even that is a fairly narrow description of what could be called quote unquote healthy eating. But I mean, that's why I don't want to put like a hard and fast stamp on this. But let's say we're doing that. Then we get into the sneaky little things like sugar, like where does that come in? And like oils, like when we cook with stuff, when we put dressing on the salad, what's in that? If I'm eating the rice and potatoes, if I'm eating the rice and beans, what am I putting on that? Is it the biggest thing I was thinking of was like ranch dressing or like the yum yum sauce, the orange stuff. We love that. I try not to use it too much because it is, dude, the calorie per serving on yum yum sauce is banana pancakes, dude. It's like 150 calories for I think 2 teaspoons, not tablespoons, teaspoons. It is extremely small amount of that dressing for an extremely large amount of calories. And then liquid calories, drinking. Alcohol usually is the biggest thing. Specialty coffees. I know I've talked about that with Rachel a whole bunch of times, especially early on in the podcast. But if you have a non-negotiable like she did, just budget around that. So yeah, that would be the things I would be looking at. Yes, answer your question again. I'm looking at 3 to 4 times a week, eating healthy but staying consistent weight on the scale. Is it because I'm getting muscle while losing fat, or am I doing something wrong? I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I think there's things we can be doing better and looking more closely at. I would want to know what kind of workouts you're doing and how often they are actually happening, and the level of intensity. Is it appropriate for your goals? I would encourage you to take a very honest, hard look at what's coming out of the fridge and what our input is. And I don't say you as in like you specifically the asker of this question. I mean like you, the listener right now, because again, this is such a common question. So many people have this exact problem. And I've come across it myself many times. But yeah, just take a closer look. If you are someone who has asked this question yourself, you are in good company. And if you want help answering it, you know who to ask. Well, let's move to the Halloween section here. I got some good questions just earlier tonight. Let's see. Oh, you get some more off-topic questions. I love these. Beth, our winner of Halloween last week, oh my gosh, asks, what's your favorite Halloween costume of years past? So when we lived in an apartment together, Mo and I, and then when we moved into the house before we had a kid, I always made sure that we threw a Halloween party because I love Halloween and I love parties. And during those, we had some really great costumes. There was a year, I think there was a year before we moved in together. My best friend, Ethan, my bestie, and I went as Finn and Jake from Adventure Time. That was really good, actually. I was very proud of that costume, and he looked great as Jake. The favorite costume I think that I keep going back to is probably Ninja, T-shirt Ninja. I learned online in college, I think, how to make a ninja mask out of a T-shirt, and it's been my go-to ever since. Like, I think we were gonna go. Okay, I gotta tell the story real quick. Maybe the first year we were living together, Mo and I were gonna go to a friend's Halloween party in their apartment, and they said everyone should be in costume. And I was like, ninja, obviously. And Mo is like, well, I don't know what I want. I didn't have anything ready yet. It's like I think we're getting ready, and she's just like putting makeup on. She has no costume ready at all. And I've been in costume, dude. I'd be ready. I stay ready. I'm like, babe, you should just be a ninja. She's like, I don't know, a ninja. Like, isn't that kind of dorky or whatever? And I've got these nunchucks because obviously I have nunchucks. I'm like, babe, watch this. And I jump out into her view, like out of the bedroom, and I'm in my full like black on black ninja costume, like whipping my chucks about. She looks at me and goes, yeah, okay. And I teach her how to make the ninja mask. And we go to our friend's party, God, and we get there, and we were literally the only people in fucking costume. There's like 8 other people there, man. They're all sitting on the ground watching like Hocus Pocus or something, like some scary movie. We're having a few snacks, and Mo and I were like, dude, we were sold a costume party. I'm here to get fucked up and look like an asshole. I'm here to get fucked up and look like a ninja. What is this? So there's pictures of us at the party. Everyone's sitting on the ground looking at the TV, and Mo and I in our ninja costumes. You can see our hands and our arms are blurred because we're whipping our chucks about, just like in the background of people. Ah! You cannot stop me from having fun on Halloween. That's illegal. So yeah, that's probably my favorite costume of years past is the ninja, and I keep coming back to it. It's my one of my legacy costumes, I call it. Uh, it's one of my legacy costumes, so I try and add to my ninja costume like one or two pieces every year, and I also have a ranger costume, like a Dungeons and Dragons style ranger costume that I try and add to every year. I wear part of it for Ragnarok. That one is probably my favorite. Like if I had to call it a cosplay, is that it's hard-ish as a Halloween costume because people always ask me, "What are you?" And I have to say, "Oh, I'm a ranger, like from D&D," and then I have to explain what D&D is, and also what a ranger is within D&D. And like what should have been a one-word answer has become like a several minutes long conversation with someone whose eyes are actively glazing over as I explain my hobby and my extremely niche costume to them. But again, I find it fun, and that's what really matters. Blaze asks, "What is your favorite FPS, first-person shooter game? Any thoughts on Concord?" My favorite first-person shooter game of all time, gosh, I played Overwatch for probably longer than was appropriate. No, I played it for just long enough. It was fine. Honestly, it was fine. It was okay. I haven't been big on shooters in a very, very long time. Um, the first person shooter I think I've played the most recently was probably Deep Rock Galactic, which I think technically counts as a first person shooter. I've been really, really into Helldivers 2. That's technically could be a first person, but it's also a third person shooter, whatever. But yeah, if you want to talk about shooting games, that's the one for me. Is Helldivers 2. Thoughts on Concorde? I'm sure it was a fine aircraft. I think it was about time it was retired when it did. Second question: here we go back on the fitness. Second question: what should someone look for in a trainer, or what to watch out for if you're a newbie? You don't know what you don't know, and I feel that would help people make informed decisions while showcasing what you know. Oh, thank you, Blaze. This is another good question. What should you look for in a trainer? Is if you go on Instagram and you search for at rf.fitness.online, that's what you need to find. If you are for some reason listening to this podcast and are looking for a trainer but are not interested in my services particularly, don't worry, that's okay. No harm, no foul. I would encourage you to look around for someone who has put in the time and the work. I think that there's a lot of things to be said for letters after your name, like PhD, whatever, exercise scientist, NIDA, certified PT, all this stuff. There's a bazillion different things. The long and short of it is that I've said probably many, many times that coaching isn't like, gosh, how do I put this? First of all, I should delineate. There's a difference, I believe, in being a personal trainer and being a coach. So lately, this year especially, I've been really focusing on getting myself to tell people I'm a fitness coach when they ask what I do, not just a personal trainer. The difference to me is that mostly what I do is not in person. So it's hard to call myself a personal trainer if I'm not there in person with you guys. And two, a personal trainer is really someone who puts together and then runs you through a workout, maybe even a workout program, maybe even for a long-term goal. A coach is someone who is more involved with your life. And I don't mean like they tuck you in at bed every night, unless you really want to. That's the double diamond super secret platinum level of RF fitness. But like I know what you do for work and like what your hobbies are. I know about like your pet names, your pets' names, your kids, like what school they go to. And that's not just like trivia facts that I want to know about someone who's a client. I think it's important to know about someone's life, what they're going through, what they could be going through, why your goals are what they are, because that's going to inform a lot how we get there. So some goals are short term; they're more, let's say, numbers based or performance based. I like those ones. I have this event. I'm going to run a Tough Mudder in July. It is now October. I need to prepare for this. Okay. Who are you? Are you a young 20 something just out of college and you're looking for ways to challenge yourself, I'm going to do something very differently for you for that same event than if you are someone who used to lift weights a lot and then gained 35 pounds during COVID, and now you haven't had the guts to go back into a gym ever since. But you want to do this thing to push yourself, and that's going to be different than someone who has never really consider yourself an athlete before, but you had kids and they're old enough to do their own thing now, and you want to jump in and challenge yourself. And your friends, 20 something who's just out of college and a former athlete who gained a bunch of weight during COVID, are also doing this Tough Mudder, and you want to join them too, this trio of imaginary people we just made up. They're training for the same thing on the same timeline. How we approach it is going to be very different because of what's happening in their lives, what their bodies are ready to do, what their bodies have done and are capable of doing in this period of time. The mom is going to have a lot less time, a lot less like bandwidth for training, not for coaching, but for training sessions than the 20 something for obvious reasons. So look for someone in a coach. I'll say look for someone who calls himself a coach rather than a personal. Not there's anything wrong with being a personal trainer. I was one for many years. I still am. But look for someone who I think identifies more as a coach than as a personal trainer, especially if you're doing this online. Look for someone whose vibe matches yours more than their body looks like what you want yours to look like. And I think that's an important thing too. Because Instagram, I'm assuming we're looking at Instagram or Google, whatever. Your physique will never look like the physique of someone whose literal career it is to be ripped on Instagram. They don't even look like that the whole time. And it's their job to be unrealistically fit to people to get clients. All right. No matter how ripped your trainer is, that their physique is not like an advertisement for the efficacy of their program. There's a really interesting conversation kind of going on right now and lately in the online fitness world for coaches specifically about should a coach be in shape? Should your personal trainer be more fit than you? I think that's a really good question. Sorry, I'm like diving. This is what happens when Rachel's not around. Sorry, Blaze. There's no one here to stop me on my rants. I promise not to talk about cops or capitalism today, though, guys. I think that's a good question. I think a trainer should be able to demonstrate that they have definitely deep knowledge of fitness, of training, of what it means to dedicate yourself to some sort of physical performance goal. But I don't think it necessarily means that they need to have a six-pack year-round. That's just wholly unrealistic. If someone has a six-pack all year round and like single-digit body fat percentage, my guess would be that they're spending more of their time and energy looking like that than they are on getting you a program that works for your specific situation. Does that mean your trainer online shouldn't have a six-pack? Again, if you're looking at rf.fitness.online, I would say yes. I would not call the physique that I maintain Instagram worthy or whatever, but it's a real body. It's my body. It's real. I don't mind jumping on there and being a little bit jiggly for the gram because I think it's a good indication of like who I am, and I want to be completely honest and transparent about what I got going on because that's who I'm trying to serve is people in their 30s, late 30s who are busy professionals. They may not have kids, got a lot of stuff going on. My whole thing is that, fitness should elevate every other part of your life, not that every other part of your life has to bow to what fitness means. So I would say, yeah, if you're looking for a trainer, the glorious thing about social media is that everyone is so accessible. So if you have someone that you have in mind and you're thinking, well, what's their deal? Shoot them a DM. Shoot your shot, man. Who fucking cares? What are they going to do? Ignore you? Fine. That person's an asshole anyways. Obviously, you don't want their services. Like if you jump onto, I don't know, the Honey six-pack abs 4949 and she's 24 and drop dead gorgeous and lives in Dubai or whatever, and you're like 35 and you're like, gosh, I wish I looked like that, and you hit her up and she's just like ghosts you or is rude about it or tells you just to go to her website, like there's a lot of red flags here, man. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, again, this is a hugely, obviously this is a hugely personal answer for me, and a hugely personal question that I have to, contend with and think about an awful lot. But I think that vibes matter more than um, like letters after your name. Like I can be a good coach and not have a PhD in exercise science because I'm a good coach and I don't have a PhD in exercise science. I don't have a PhD in anything, you guys. I don't have exercise science on anything. I didn't go to school for this. I went to school for anthropology. I minored in philosophy, man. I wanted to work in museums. This is not what I pictured myself doing, 20, 15 years ago. It's what I do now, though, because I'm good at it and I like it a lot because I love helping people. So look for someone whose values and vibes match your own. Look for someone who is, I think, your age or older. That would be just a little like hot tip, just because they have more experience and will probably know where you're coming from a bit more. It's so personal being a personal trainer. Okay, I'll end that right there. Amanda asks, how many ghosts? Too many ghosts to fight off. The answer is one, because I can't punch a ghost. There are professionals for this. If I have a ghost, I know who I'm going to call, and it's Bill Murray and the rest of those degenerates who live in that firehouse. I can't fight a ghost because I can't punch an intangible being. I can do all the jujitsu and all the karate I want, but if my fist goes right through you, forget about it. I think we talked about like why certain scary movies are scary to me versus to Mo. She doesn't believe in ghosts, so she's not scared of that stuff. I do, so I am. She's more scared of like the thrillers with like the person betrays you, or like the killer is on the list. I'm like, I can fight a person, dude. I enjoy fighting a person. That's what I'm about. And another question, how do you know when it's time to up your weights if, from the aforementioned question, you're not going to fatigue? If your weights, back to fitness, if your weights aren't fatiguing you, you need heavier weights. The point of doing movements with weights is to make a general body movement, is to make it mechanically disadvantageous to the point where it stimulates a physiological response, a physiological adaptation from your body. Again, I talk about how growing muscle is very energetically expensive. I use all these like $5 words. Basically, it needs to be really hard or your body is not going to give a shit. And it's just going to say, I don't care about that. One of the things that we see a lot in like personal training courses when it talks about writing programming, specifically for women, because there's this whole thing about, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably don't fall into this camp, but people who think that women shouldn't lift heavy or that women can't lift heavy. Oh, don't even get me fucking started. The women shouldn't be strong or can't be strong. Do you know how much the average woman's purse weighs, man? It's like several pounds. Or a kid? Dude, like 35 pounds, 40 pounds? How much do you think you lift in this, like, what, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old? Bro, a 6-year-old? Stop me if you've heard this, a 7-year-old? Those kids get heavy, man. You're telling me a woman can't be strong? You're lifting these kids all the time? Not that dads don't lift their kids. But like, damn, dude, like you need to be lifting something that's heavier than what your body is used to lifting in order for it to change. So if your purse, let's say, or your backpack, that's a better example. Let's say if your backpack is 20 pounds with all the stuff in it, all the accoutrement that you take with you every day. Excuse me. If you're a 20-pound backpack, you want to stimulate a physiological adaptation in your body. You need to move around with more than 20 pounds of resistance on your walks or squats or push-ups or whatever it is that you're doing. Because it needs to fatigue your muscles to the point where your body says, wow, that's hard, and it stays hard. I need to get stronger in order to make whatever this is less energetically expensive. It has to invest. Your body has to want to invest in building strength, invest in building muscle. Which is a good way for you to think about it as well. So, Amanda, again, to answer your question in an extremely long roundabout way, How do you know when it's time to up your weights? When your RPE is below 7, your rate of perceived exertion. I think I've talked about this a few times, but I just want to talk about it again. RPE is super duper important in fitness. Again, your rate of perceived exertion exists on a 1 to 10 scale, usually. 1 being I could do this in my sleep and/or I am currently sleeping. 10 being this is physically impossible for me to perform or I am actually dying right now. 7 and 8 are sort of like the magic number, the magic range. It's usually, so this is interesting about RPE and like strength training and lifting specifically. If we talk about a particular lift, let's say bench press, Rachel, I found your question on my phone earlier, so I'm going to answer that in a second. Let's say, talk about bench press. Let's say you're looking for your 1 rep max, the actual amount of weight you can push exactly 1 time with your absolute maximum effort. Let's pretend it's 100 pounds because that's an easy round number. Your RPE would put you at 7. That'd be 70 pounds. If your RPE is 8, it should be 80 pounds. Generally, what I have found in the 12 plus years that I have been a personal trainer / fitness coach is that when people are in tune with their bodies and they've been lifting for a little while and they sort of like know how things feel, like what quote unquote heavy is like for them, their estimation of RPE to like their actual calculated max percentage is like uncannily similar. So like you actually get pretty accurate with that. So if you are doing your bench press and you do your set of 10 and you feel like, I was like a 4 or a 5, it probably isn't like 40, 50% of your total max, which is not really enough to stimulate the change you're looking for. So again, if your weights aren't fatiguing you, if you don't finish that set and go, oh, it probably needs to be heavier. It needs to be heavier. Embrace the suck. It has to be hard. Nothing will change. Garrett, excuse me, I'm doing all the talking tonight. Garrett asks, are pickles a good recovery snack or chocolate milk? Not at the same time, of course. Hey man, you do you. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to yuck your yums. Are pickles a good recovery snack? I've actually never considered pickles for a recovery snack. I don't see any reason for they would not be. I know like long distance runners, marathoners love pickled juice because it's full of electrolytes. So if you're doing like an endurance style training session, or you're an extremely heavy sweater and it's like hot out, I would say, yeah, go for it. Have a couple pickles if that's what strikes your fancy. Chocolate milk is a great post-recovery snack, or post-workout recovery snack. I love that stuff. I've talked about this before, I think. It has sugar in it, which normally is demonized, but post-workout, especially like strength training, your body needs glucose to like keep things happening, to like jumpstart basically your energy again. And the sugar and chocolate milk does that. It has protein, it has fat, it has carbs. Usually a pretty attractive split for like what your body is like willing and able to utilize directly after. I would say there's probably better options if you're looking for like a full on like a grabbable protein drink, like the Fairlife chocolate milk probably is great because it has like 26 grams of protein or whatever. You can find those at pretty much any gas station. In fact, the gym where I coach at Solo Fitness, we recently got a refrigerator put in our lobby, and we are now keeping Fairlife chocolate milks for $3.50 a bottle, which I think is about what you pay for it anyways. But you can grab that, get those 20-something, I think it's like 24 grams of protein right after your workout with me or with any of the awesome coaches out here at Soda. Come check us out. Let's see, Rach. Back. It just wouldn't be an episode of RF Fitness Podcast, you guys, if my computer didn't do me dirty. We had one question left of all the timing. We had one question left. Rachel, my dear younger sister and co-host, texted me. I asked her, I know she wasn't feeling well. I asked her if she had any questions to force me to respond to on the air. She says, someone I won't name, someone was trying to say that bench pressing is pointless and doesn't actually build your shoulders and chest. True? No, not true. If it didn't do anything, why would people do it? Like what? It's a bit of a sassy answer, I suppose, but chances are if you're not seeing it do things, I would refer back to that first question How often are you doing it? Is the intensity right? Is the density or your rest periods, all this other stuff? Look at those. There are qualifiers to take into account here. I mean, I went through a phase where I didn't do bench press. I still basically don't do bench press at all, but only because I'm not a bodybuilder. Like I don't care really about my development of those muscles aesthetically. It certainly develops a lot of strength in those muscles, but I never considered it like functional for like what I train for martial arts until more recently when I started doing more pressing work for jujitsu specifically because I keep getting bench pressed off of dudes. They keep just pushing me off of them and standing up. I said it wouldn't work, but it does. So I hate that. So I started bench pressing. Well, not bench pressing, but doing horizontal pressing movements. I found it helpful, like, actually. Like a bench press is basically just a heavier push-up, and you wouldn't say the push-ups don't work, would you? I hope not. That would be silly. I think that's all of the questions that we had. Now I need to work on figuring out how to edit these two cuts together. Gosh darn it. If you are interested in having your questions answered, guys, if you are interested in beginning or improving on your personal quest for health and fitness, go to rffitness.net. That's rffitness.net to learn all about what I do and what I can do for you. Then scroll all the way to the bottom of the nice green page and click on Join the Party to join up on the Discord for free. You might be able to ask some questions like the ones you heard on the air tonight that I would answer for you on future episodes. If you want to join us maybe for a game of Cairn or Dungeons and Dragons at some point, that'd be the place to do it and try and throw your hat into the ring. Just want to hang out with some cool people and see the memes and see us talk a whole lot about different smutty books and all the degenerate subgenres there are. I've learned a lot in the past few weeks, guys. You can go there and do that. Thank you all very much. Everyone send positive healing vibes to our favorite co-host, Rachel. And I'll see you later. Keep questing.